Hi, and welcome to the third demo video of the Bahmni-SNOMED Integration project. In this demo video, we will see how Bahmni uses the SNOMED Terminology Server's clinical terminologies to record patients' observations while encountering the clinician for the first time and creating the report out of it. Right. So to understand this feature, let's first look into the existing forms and form builder in Bahmni. So I'll open into a new tab and I'll show the demo version of the dev.lite. Right. So under clinical service, under clinical module, let's say if there is a patient. So once the clinician clicks on consultation, right? So this is the observations tab, right? So this is where the clinician records the responses provided by the clinician patient once they encounter the clinician, right? So we can see here that there is a form, right? So let's say history and examination form. So the form is nothing but a set of questions where clinician has a certain questions which they want the patient to respond for, right? So in this case, let's say if what is the chief complaint of the patient, why the patient has basically visited the clinic, right? And the signs or the symptoms and durations, right? So these are the questions, let's say when uh, clinician asks a patient, right, like why you have come, what is your chief complaint, since when you are having this complaint, and things like that, right? So this is a typical form in the Bahmni application, current Bahmni application. Now these forms are customizable in Bahmni. So as per the needs of the clinician and the context of the clinic, the clinicians can customize the form based on the questions they want to ask to the patient, right? So for example, let me show, we have this add new ops form here, right? So we in the current demo in dev.live, we have these many forms, correct? So let's say if there is I choose a hypertension intake form, we can see here, right? So there are different set of questions here in this form, right? So like for hypertension intake, what was the date of last patient visit, hypertensive emergency or cardiac hospitalization in 12 months, things like that. So basically, a clinician can customize their forms or the questions they want to ask to the patient based on their needs, right? Currently, the values that we see here, these are coming from the OpenMRS value sets, right? Which is using the seal dictionary, right? So this is basically about the form, right? And there are numerous forms here as well. So I'll just give another example. Let's say orthopedic examination. Right. Under this form, uh, the clinician wants to examine the mucoskeletal issue, the range of motion, how the range of motion of a particular limb is, or the radiographic examination. So the fields which are there can either be drop downs or free text fields. It is up to the clinician how they want to record the patient's data, right? So this is about forms in Bahmni. Now there is a module in Bahmni where the clinicians can go and customize their forms. Like we see these many forms, right? So the user or the clinician can go to the landing page. Here we see the implementer interface. So this is the module where the clinicians can customize their own forms as per their needs. So let's say if I click on that under form builder. So we can see here, these are already published forms which are already there for the clinicians to use. Similarly, the user can create a form of their own and provide certain questions, right? So this is the current setup of the dev.lite. Now in our SNOMED version, the Bahmni application would be leveraging the SNOMED terminology terms to record the responses from the patients. So let's say currently when the responses are coming, or the answer sets are coming from the open MRS, let's say for a question of, a chief complaint. So in our current setup, in Bahmni-SNOMED integration setup, the value sets would be referred from the SNOMED Terminology Server. So that will be the difference. So as we can see, that users can customize this set of questions in Bahmni according to their requirements to record the patient's responses. They will be able to customize the questionnaire under the FormBuilder module. FormBuilder module, we saw that implementer interface. Here, in our Bahmni-SNOMED integration, SNOMED CT is leveraged to provide the list of responses for a given question. So we will see that demo in a while. Once the form is saved and published, the form can be used by the clinicians to record the patient responses. Also, these responses, can be captured, and clinicians can generate report out of it as well. So basically, what is the advantage of using SNOMED? As we have seen for diagnosis and condition search and save as well, that using SNOMED CT terminology terms basically helps in standardizing the healthcare terminologies, so that it can be easily exchanged with other EHR systems, and this helps in improving the patient healthcare, right? So now let's move on to our demo. So I open a new tab and open the SNOMED Bahmni URL. So under the clinical service, here we have the implementer interface module, where I will be able to configure forms. So I click on it. So under form builder, currently we see that there is only one form which is there. So now let's create a form for our demo purpose. Okay. So the form that we want to take is the SNOMED's COVID intake form. So like, if a patient visits a clinic, then there are certain questions which the clinicians will ask about the, if a person has COVID or not. So I'll give the name of this form as SNOMED COVID form. Okay. Now, once I am here, so there are certain set of questions we would like to, ask the patient, right? So we have curated those questions, and those now can be, configured here. So under OBS, we drag and drop into the canvas. Once I select into the OBS table, we can say, so here are the list of questions that we have, right? So the first question we can ask that, has COVID been confirmed? So we can see that. So we have one question, has COVID been confirmed? I select, right? Now if we see the URL here we will be able to provide the SNOMED URLs where the responses will be referring to the SNOMED terms. So in this case, we have created a custom value set for a yes and a no with these two SNOMED codes. So, and this has been created under this value set. So I will copy this URL and put it here, right? So once I do and come out of this URL, now I will be able to see that, there are two responses to it, which are SARS-CoV not detected or SARS-CoV-2 detected. The same we can see in the SNOMED browser as well. Let's check there. right, under international edition. So if I take this code and search for this, yeah, we get SARS-CoV-2 detected. Similarly, for the other one, we see SARS-CoV not detected. So these two we have combined in a custom value set and fetched and provided in our form. So this is where we get, right? Here we can have multiple options. We can show this in the form of a button or a drop down field or an autocomplete field as well, right? So since we just have two values, let's keep it as buttons. Now let's move to the next question. So the next question that we can ask is, when was the COVID diagnosed or confirmed? Okay, so I'll take another obs source here. I'll search for it. So we have when was COVID confirmed. So it is basically a date field. Okay, now moving to the next question. Okay, any symptoms experienced? So I'll take another obs group here. I'll search for any symptoms experienced. Right. So for this, we again have a custom value set that we have taken from the SNOMED codes, right? So this is the URL where we have the custom value set, and I'll paste it here in the URL form, right? So these are the ones which we have taken. So how and from where we have got these symptoms? So basically, under SNOMED, we had, SNOMED has already defined certain symptoms with respect to COVID-19. So among, this list of symptoms, what we have done, we have taken certain few values and made a custom value set out of it so that we can use in our demo form. So if we see here, abdominal pain, asymptomatic, chest pain, etc. So there are, I mean, numerous symptoms here. But for our demo purpose, we have taken select few and created a custom value set for it. And that is what we are using here. So now let's mark this field as autocomplete. I'll mark this. All right. Now let's see the next question that we can take up. So yeah, as I said that these 13 symptoms we have taken for our demo purpose. Let's take the next question as saturation, oxygen saturation. So that also we can add here. Okay. So we take, so this is in the form of percentage we can provide here. Moving on to the next question. So the next question we can ask is any pre-existing comorbidities if the patient has. So that I select here. Okay. Now this is an ECL query, which encompasses all the diseases or the disorders which a patient might have as a comorbidity. So for this, we are using the ECL query, and this is the ECL query that we are going to provide here. Yeah. Now we can see that it is loaded with all the descendants of the code word that we have provided. So now let's make it as autocomplete. Now let's check basically what we are actually referring with this SNOMED code. So I'll go to the browser here and provide it. So basically, we are actually searching for any disease, right? So under disease, we have numerous descendants and children as well. So which forms the part of that response. And that is what we have provided here. Since it is a lengthy list of diseases, we have put it as autocomplete. right? Now let's see what can be our next question. Okay, the next question can be, is the admission to hospital required? So we can check that as well. So we have this is, yeah. And for this as well, we have a custom value set of yes and no, that inpatient management is required or not. So let's take this URL and put it here, right? So we get that, yes, inpatient management is required or it is not required. The last question can be any comments which the clinician wants to provide here. So let's take that as well. So comments is a free text field, right? Now, in this way, we have prepared our SNOMED COVID form. Once I have provided all the questions that the clinician would want to ask, we'll save the same. Once it is saved, and we'll click on the publish button. Upon clicking on publish button, so this form is now available for the clinicians in the clinical module to record the patient's responses. So let's move to the clinical module now and capture response for a patient. So I go back. So now under the clinical module, I take one patient, right? Under consultation. So currently we see that these are the default forms, right? Now I come to add new observation form and select the SNOMED COVID form that we created, right? So this is how the form is now looking like, right? Now let's capture the responses for this COVID form. So let's say, has the COVID been confirmed? So let's say yes, the SARS-CoV-2 has been detected. The date of confirmation, let's provide a date. Any symptoms experienced, let's say fever, right? Oxygen saturation level, let's mention that as 98%, right? So any pre-existing comorbidities, let's say the patient was having a comorbidity of asthma. So all these responses are now directly coming from SNOMED, right? So this is what I select. Now, is the admission to hospital required? Let's say inpatient management is required. Okay, and in the comments, I can provide that patient needs intense care, let's say. So once I have provided all the information, I click on save. So once this is done, so this form is saved for this particular patient. Now, as soon as it is saved, we will be able to see this in the consultation tab as well. So if I click on consultation, I will be able to see these observations right under this form. That all it also mentions all the questions, right? That has COVID been confirmed, any pre-existing comorbidities, and all the things that we have actually now just filled in. The same thing we can also see in the patient's dashboard. Okay, here under forms 2, so SNOMED COVID form, the user can view this as well, right? So this is how uh, we can configure certain forms using SNOMED fields and then record patient's data by using those value sets from SNOMED. Now, let's say the clinician wants to know, it wants the details of the patients, uh, though which have visited the clinic in the past week and has detected with COVID, right? So they can do that with the COVID line form in Bahmni application. So how we can see that? Now let's say I go to the reports module. Under the reports module, we see that we have a form that's SNOMED intake line report, SNOMED COVID intake line list. So here, let's say the user wants to see in the past 1 week how has been the SNOMED's, how have been the COVID's, observations. So let's say I take 1 week, choose the format, and run the report. Right now we can see, let me expand a bit. Yeah. So all the information of a patient is now captured, as well as all the questions or the responses that they have provided has been captured here. So the patient identifier information that are shown here are the patient ID, their name, the age, date of birth, gender, location name, and the address as well. And followed by those questions responses that we have filled in for this particular patient. Yeah. So in this way, we have seen how we can use SNOMED terminology terms to customize a form as per the needs of the clinic. And using the same, we can record the patient data as well as generate the reports from them. So one advantage of using SNOMED CT codes is basically to standardize or you make the observations uniform so that it makes easy for the interchangeability of the data from one disparate healthcare application to the other. So it helps in standardizing all the responses so that there are no confusions or ambiguity with the help of the coded terms, and the patient healthcare is improved. So this is what we have for our today's demo. Thank you so much.